Hello! We're all aware of the need to recycle more, to stop throwing all of our rubbish into waste bins which find their way into landfill. Many countries now have separate bins for recyclable and non-recyclable rubbish. At the same time, there's been a growing realisation that plastic, while great for packaging food and other products, does great harm to the environment. Like me, you've probably seen photos of sea creatures and birds with plastic wrapped around their necks, or heard about the amount of microplastics that are in the fish that we eat. The UK government, the Department for the Environment to be exact, estimated that the UK generated 41.1 million tonnes of commercial and industrial waste in 2016, so that doesn't include waste from people's homes. In both cases, commercial and industrial and domestic, just less than half of all the waste is sent for recycling. But the question I'd like to consider today is what happens to that plastic waste which is sent for recycling? Well, until the end of 2017, much of the plastic that was captured before it went to landfill sites was sent to China. But in 2018, China stopped the import of plastic waste, deciding that it had enough of its own to deal with. This announcement created some consternation in the UK because it meant that the 500,000 tonnes of plastic that had previously been sent to China every year would now have to be dealt with in a different way. What would the recycling centres do with all this plastic? Would the UK end up with mountains of plastic that nobody really wanted? Well, what happened was that since China stopped receiving the plastic, other countries have started to accept more of our plastic waste, and mainly Malaysia. Malaysia took some of the UK's plastic waste before 2018, but in 2018 the amount of plastic it received increased from about 60,000 tonnes to over 100,000 tonnes, an increase of over 45,000 tonnes in fact. The saying out of sight, out of mind springs to mind here. When I throw a plastic milk bottle or whatever into the recycling bin, I think I've done the right thing. I've helped the environment. But that, it seems, is not actually the case. You see, Malaysia is struggling with the volume of plastic it receives from the UK and other countries. From January to June of 2018, Malaysia imported more than 754,000 metric tonnes of plastic waste. One person's waste is another person's treasure. It's estimated that the plastic recycling industry would earn Malaysia over $800 million in 2018. However, in Malaysia, a number of factories that do process the plastics into different products have been supplemented by many which are not licensed and are ill-equipped to deal with the waste in an environmentally friendly manner. They are getting paid to receive the plastic, but then end up often burning it or dumping it. Burning plastic is not a good idea by any means. It gives off a number of toxic chemicals like mercury, and all of these chemicals pose a threat to human health. Alternatively, as I said, the plastics are just dumped. There's a town called Jenjarom near Malaysia's main port, somewhere between Port Klang and Kuala Lumpur, which seems to bear the brunt of this dumping. 19,000 tonnes of dumped plastic waste was found there in early 2019. Hope is not lost for Malaysia though. In July of 2018, a new Minister of Energy, Technology, Science, Climate Change and the Environment was appointed, and her name is Yeo Bee Yin. She does appear to have this plastic problem on her urgent to-do list. An import tax on plastic for recycling was introduced. Many of the illegal recycling factories have been closed down, and she has promised to tackle the illegal importing of contaminated plastics which are not able to be recycled by sending the containers back to their port of origin. She said that Malaysia will not be the dumping ground of the world. And good for her. I've lived in Malaysia and it's a wonderful place. On another positive note, in May 2019 the United Nations announced that nearly all countries, with the exception of the USA, agreed to stop sending the most difficult to recycle plastic waste to countries like Malaysia and Indonesia. Some good news there. But the solution to the plastic problem is clearly not just in recycling. It is in using much less plastic in the first place, which in turn means changing our shopping habits. But that's probably a discussion for another day. So thank you.